Alright, Die on Games. I haven't done one of these in a really long time, but obviously I'm doing Bioshock Infinite. I'm really hoping I don't screw myself up with this because of the new YouTube content ID stuff, but this is Bioshock Infinite, and I can show this under free rights usage for reviews, so, hopefully I'm good with that. But Bioshock Infinite, the reason, I haven't done this review earlier is because I beat it recently, or it was probably last month, but I ended up playing, like, something else right after. But I got this game during Black Friday because I couldn't afford it any other time. But I was waiting for it. Once it was announced, I was like, I have to get the next Bioshock because I love Bioshock. It was, Bioshock 1 and 2 are really great games. I like the first one more than the second one, like most people do. But I think I really like the first one more just because of the fact that it had such an amazing twist at the end. And just so you know, I will be spoiling stuff probably from all three games just because Bioshock Infinite is the third one. So I'll probably make references to 1 and 2. Most likely, just from 1. And I guess the main reason for that would be Ken Levine, who created Bioshock, didn't actually work on Bioshock 2. Like, he wasn't even really involved in that game in, like, any way, which is really interesting to me. But, that was kind of like just different people working on Bioshock, and I think they did a good job. It just wasn't as amazing as we thought it would be, like with the big sisters and stuff. Initially, everyone knew, or at least it was told to us, the big sister is just going to be one big sister that you can't actually kill, but you kind of just fight, and it's like, I hope I survive this. But then when the game was finally finished, it was kind of like, big sisters are just like big daddies, except they only come out during scripted events, which kind of sucks because then it's like, well, if it's scripted, I literally know every single time when I'm going to fight one. And the main thing that I didn't like about that was the fact that there was, like, the choices you made didn't affect whether or not you were attacked, because even if you helped the little sisters in Bioshock 2, the big sisters would still attack you. And it's kind of like, well, if I'm, like, getting these girls from the big daddies and then I'm letting them go, you would think the big sisters would kind of be like Tenenbaum, in the first one, where they would pretty much help you out, or even if they were, weren't there enough to give you gifts and stuff like that, they would come in and, like, take off enemies, or maybe somehow give you gifts and stuff. I mean, they can attack you. I don't see why they couldn't be smart enough to give you gifts. But anyway, Bioshock Infinite, you play as the main character, Booker DeWitt, and how the game starts off is really interesting. You wake up, you're in a boat with two people who are just some of the best characters ever made in video games. I just throw that out there. In general, if you've played the game, obviously if you haven't, you should really play the games first, because you should play all of them. Even though I already spoiled a little bit for 2, you should still play all the games before listening to this review. But the Lutesses I love, but I'll get to them. But you start off, you get up in the boat, or you wake up in the boat with them. You're Booker DeWitt. You have, a scar on your hand that says AD, and they're talking to each other. You don't know who these two are. They're just talking, saying stuff that I still don't understand. Like, if anyone can explain what they're talking about when they say he doesn't row, and then he's like, he doesn't row, and she says, no, he doesn't row. I don't know what that means. Like, it's just confusing. So if you know what that means, please put that below, because I try to figure it out, but it just doesn't make sense to me. But you get up, you know what you have to do. You have to erase your debt. It's a note on the door when you get to the lighthouse. Bring us the girl, erase your debt. You go in, it's Bioshocky, it's just silent, and then you go upstairs, there's things you can interact with and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. And, you go up, you find this guy who's shot in the head, and that's just crazy. And then you get to the new city, and instead of it being Rapture, which was, of course, the really big deal about this game, was, instead of Rapture, which is under the sea, you're that made me think of The Little Mermaid, but you're in Colombia, which is up in the sky. So they just, boom, polar opposites right there. And so you go up to Colombia, and I kind of love how they do it, where it's like, you're in the rain, and when you put in the little code to basically signal Colombia, it's like this horn goes off and the sky is red. It's like, just like fury is about to, like, rain down on the world or something. So you get in this chair, then you go up and you go above the clouds, and the storm disappears and everything's nice and calm, and it's like, oh, it's sunny and people are singing and doing all types of normal stuff. And you land and you get into this area that's kind of like the church, and you see statues of, basically the leader of Colombia, Comstock, and also his wife, who they call Lady Comstock. And they obviously praise these people, and they praise his daughter because Lady Comstock, had a daughter. And you go through the game, and things are really simple, and I kind of love that for the first part of the game, where you go through, you're not even fighting people, you're just walking around the city. This happens, that happens. Something you look at changes, which gets explained way later, like towards the end of the game. But you go through, things are really simple, and then it's like, oh, they really bring out, the time period, which I believe in this one is the 1920s, as were like Bioshock 1 and 2 are like the 1940s or something like that. And so you're like in the 1920s, or I think it's earlier than that actually. I can't even remember. I don't know if it's on here. Oh, it's 1912. Yeah, so way earlier than the 1940s, or not way earlier, but they bring out the fact that this place is like, super racist, and just how they do it, because things seem so peaceful and stuff, and then it's just like things go crazy, just like that. You're going through like, and it's a carnival, so it's really a drastic change once things actually take off, because it's like people are having fun. They're like, oh, let's play these games, let's do this, let's do that, and then you get to this specific part of the carnival or the festival, and it just kind of, things just go crazy, and then you start killing people, because if you don't, they'll kill you, obviously. And then you go through and you start to get more and more powers, which in this game are actually really cool. Like, I love the powers in Bioshock in general, but in this one, even though they have some of the basics, they have, of course, the lightning and the fire. The lightning is pretty much exactly the same, aside from the fact that the trap version is, it looks different, because I believe in the other one, I don't know if they even had trap versions for lightning in 1 or 2. And if they did, it was just like the same traps for everything else, where you just kind of shoot it in the ground and that's it. And in this one, it's like, crystals, and it was actually an amazing trap version for that, because I would just like toss crystals and you could just throw them all over the place. And like my enemy, it could be like one of the stronger ones. If I couldn't take them on head on, I would just like throw crystals all over the room, because the lightning, kind of surges through each crystal. So that was really cool just to see. And it was also, a really useful attack, because I could like throw one at my foot and then throw one like all the way across the map, and it would just charge, and it would like hit a guy who it landed next to. And I always thought, like, that's really amazing. And like I said, it just looks cool when you just like throwing crystals everywhere, and it's just lightning. It's just a field of lightning all over the place that fortunately doesn't hurt you, but stops everyone coming at you. So it's really cool. Also, the fact that you don't have to upgrade to the traps, I really loved in this game. And it also really surprised me, because in Bioshock 1 and 2, it was like, okay, you get your plasmid and Eve, which in this game, I can't think of the name of them, but they're not plasmids or Eves. But you get your power. It's the basic move. You can shoot lightning. The second upgrade, I believe, would be like chain lightning, and then the third upgrade would be the trap version of that, which, like I said, for lightning, it might have been something else, like it changed to more enemies, or it deals more damage. But in this, you get the trap, with every single, I wish I knew the name, but I'll just call them plasmids. But with every single one, you instantly get the trap version. So instead of that, they made the replacement upgrades really, really cool. So, you deal more damage, or you do, chain lightning between more enemies and stuff like that. And I thought that was a really cool idea, where, we don't have to pay for the trap version, and they didn't just be like, oh, let's just take it out. And so now you only have 2 upgrades. They kind of replace it with something that is worth, working towards. And some of the powers, like I said, they have lightning and fire, but the fire is very different from 1 and 2. Like in the first one, it was like, you shoot a fireball, set someone on fire. In 2, the upgrade was like, you could turn it into a flamethrower and just shoot fire at people. And in this one, it was kind of like the first one, but at the same time, it was sort of a lot more advanced, because instead of it being like a fireball, it was kind of like a molten ball of lava that would explode. So you hit someone and it would set them on fire, but it would be an explosion that hit other people. And then the upgrade was like the explosion would make mini explosions and stuff like that. And I loved that. And then they have like Bucking Bronco, which was a lot like the wind move from 1 and 2. And I just like that one because it looked cool. It has a cool name. The bottle looked cool. It's like a cowboy on a horse, just stuff. The crows were amazing. I love the crows most out of everything in this game because they kind of replaced the bees, which I thought were cool. I didn't use them that much, but crows for one look a lot cooler, and two, the ability for the crows, like I said, because they upgrade from the bees. My favorite upgrade was like if someone dies while being attacked by the crows, their body instantly becomes a trap, and that can actually chain to like multiple enemies. And if you just toss some crows at like 5 people, if all 5 people die, all 5 of their bodies become traps. And I thought that's amazing. Like there is technically no limit. Like as long as you kill them with the crow, you have another weapon that just instantly spawns because that's the upgrade you bought. So that's why I love the crows the most. Even though they don't do a ton of damage, they do distract and they can do enough damage to kill once you kind of assist them with your guns, which in this game I believe are exactly like the other ones. I mean, obviously you don't get the drill from 2 because you aren't a big daddy, but you get shotgun, handgun, machine gun, sniper rifle. You get something called like a repeater or something. Like it's not like an actual old west repeater, but it's called that, I believe. The volley gun, which I thought was pretty cool. It's kind of like a grenade launcher. And then there was like the Magnum. I can't think of the actual name, but that's what it was. It was like a revolver, and that was probably my favorite weapon just because it looked really cool, but it was also really powerful. And that plus the shotgun was really all you needed because you can only choose 2 weapons, and it was like, okay, unless I'm going up against a handyman or something, I don't really need a rocket launcher. Although once you pick those 2 weapons, you pretty much won't run out of ammo because you always, enemies drop ammo. Elizabeth, who of course I have to get to because she's the main part of the game, she'll give you coins, she'll give you ammo, so it seems like you barely ever run out, but you do at some point because they throw so many enemies at you and you have so much power. You have to kind of balance, use lightning or fire or crows or anything else, and then use my ammo for my guns too. But I think everything as far as the abilities and the guns were upgraded very, very well. Like I said, one of my favorite things is the fact that we don't have to pay for the trap. For some reason, that was just really special to me because, playing 1 and 2, you have to work so hard to get like, oh god, I want the trap version of, you know, like the wind because it'll shoot you up super high if it's the trap version compared to me pushing you or something like that. And in this, it's like you already have it, so it's really cool to me. But getting back to the story, once things get crazy, you go through a lot of stuff. You meet a lot of different characters, a lot more than I would have actually expected. And then eventually you come across Elizabeth, who, everyone I think loves in this game. I mean, she's an amazing character. The banter between Elizabeth and Booker is really, really good too. And just, their chemistry is really good because they're like polar opposites almost because he was like, he constantly talks about how he's not a great person, and then she was kind of the innocent person who's been trapped all her life, and she has these powers and she can do tears and things like that, which in this you can choose like, hey, I need this, I need that. And I'm glad they changed it from the initial demo they had where you could do it, I think she could do it like 2 or 3 times. And the reason I bring up that really old demo, which is like the first thing they ever had where it was like 8 minutes long, is because they took that demo and they sort of broke it apart. Because that, if you go back and watch that demo now, you realize that is not in the game like at all, but those specific, like, certain things are in the game in certain sections. Like there's a part in that old demo where there's like a dead horse, which they took out horses in general because all the horses end up being electric because they're used by with shock jockey, which is the electricity in this game. And you have the choice to either euthanize the horse because it's already dying, or you can let Elizabeth try to heal it. And she tries to use her powers to make a tear and basically heal the horse. And what ends up happening is she makes like a giant tear into the future, and you see like Revenge of the Jedi, which was the initial name for Return of the Jedi, and then there's like an ambulance that comes at you, and she closes it real quick, and that doesn't happen in the game, but she does make a tear to Paris where there's, like the French version of Revenge of the Jedi, and the ambulance comes at her and she closes it. So it's still in the game, but it's not in that way. So, they had that. They have one specific decision that's not even in the game, and that's something that like kind of gets you caught by this giant crowd of people. Like there's a movie playing and stuff, and this guy's like on trial, and if you say something, everyone turns around. It's like, it's DeWitt. That's not even in the game, and there's the whole section of of that part of the game where like there's a giant ship that comes at you. It's not in the game, which I really hated because that was one of my favorite things in the demo. Was like, you could choose. There was like a huge option to choose whether or not you wanted to open up a door, and it would lead you to a different area of the game. But that doesn't happen in the game. You can only make choices of like spawn this weapon or that. But I really love that demo, and I did appreciate the fact that they at least took a lot of the stuff out of the demo and did put it in the game finally, even though some of the choices they took out, because one of the big things about Bioshock is the choices in the game, and in this game it doesn't really make a huge difference. Like I heard that there is a choice because you can choose one of the little pendants for Elizabeth where she has either a bird or a cage, and I chose the bird because the bird is free and stuff like that because it's nice. But I heard, if you choose the cage, it's different. So I'm still gonna play through again and do that. But I love the characters for sure, and just her relationship, dealing with who she is and finding out who she is and stuff like that is just amazing. And it just how the story progresses is really good. And then there are portions where she basically disappears on you because she's trying to live her own life, and things just get crazy. Like you're just like, okay, things are crazy. Found Elizabeth, things are nice. She finds out what I'm really trying to do, hits me in the head with a wrench, and then things are super crazy again. And then you start working with people, and then you get to the part that really, really sort of just tears the game apart, and not in a bad way, like in a great way, which is when you start going through the alternate dimensions, and you start going through, I want to say you go through like 3 or 4 dimensions, and it's so psychological where you have to, like me as a person, when I was playing it, I was thinking like it's hard to like hate this person in this dimension because it's not the dimension I was just in. Like I can't say I did all this and this person is a good guy now, or this person is even crazier and stuff like that. Like Booker kind of just goes with like, see, I knew this would happen, but it's an alternate dimension where he may or may not have even lived, where he kind of joined them and sacrificed himself and stuff. And so it changes the world. And like him as a person in the game, he's fairly straightforward, but me as the player, I was like, I don't know if I can be as straightforward as he is, where he's like, see, I knew this would happen because all these rebels want his power just like the people in power want. And I was like, I don't know if it's really as simple as that, because you're in an alternate dimension now where you yourself sacrifice your life to help these people, and that makes it different. And then it's like that version of Booker died, and then you're in the dimension now, and so the leader of the rebels, whose name I really can't remember, she's like, well, you can't be alive in this dimension because you're already dead, so I have to kill you. So now she's an enemy, and it's just like, I love that part of the game. That's my favorite part, once you start going through multiple dimensions. And then I don't think you ever really even go back to the original one. Like you just go through, and the only thing that's constant is that the rebels are fighting Comstock, and that you're trying to get Comstock yourself. And eventually you do, and that's when you get the end of the game, and it's just like your mind's kind of just blown because you go through all these dimensions. They have the tears and stuff, and then you realize that you yourself, or the character, at least Booker, is a product of one of these dimensional tears, which result from the Lutesses. And the person that you've been with this whole time, Elizabeth, is actually Booker's daughter Anna, who he kind of remembers but doesn't, because his mind has been altered once he was placed into an alternate dimension. Because something they do in the very beginning of the game is they have like a quote from Lutess, and they just put our Lutess because both of the Lutesses whether it's the male version or the female version, both start with R. But it says, um, it's something I don't know it word for word, of course, but to paraphrase it, it's basically saying if you're tossed into an alternate dimension, your mind will create memories, and it'll basically create a purpose for what you have to do in this dimension now. And it was just an amazing ending to the game, and obviously I can even begin to explain all of the complex things that go into it, but you find out all this stuff about Booker and Comstock, who end up being the same person, but they're like branching paths of one person who was Booker DeWitt, and then he kind of changes after the baptism in one dimension, but in another dimension he doesn't, and it just creates so many things, and it was really a great ending, and also very confusing because some things just still aren't explained, like Elizabeth's powers. um, like I was honestly confused, how does Booker become Comstock? Like, does he just, like, it's not like your mind gets erased because you had a baptism, or does he really just become so crazy that you know he wants a daughter? Because technically if he becomes Comstock, he doesn't have one, so he steals his own daughter, and it's just crazy. But I love the ending of the game, and I love how it ties into the first one. That was genius, obviously, but everything about the game was really amazing. The characters are good. Like I mentioned, the Lutesses, I love. They're like my favorite characters put in the game this year for sure. And just how they talk is the best ever. Just the back and forth. One of my favorite things is when you're going on like a gondola, and they're basically on the platforms with in front of the posters or the ads. And the first time they're playing baseball, then the second time, um, the male Lutess is painting a picture of the female Lutess, and she's posing and stuff with an apple. And then when you go past him, he's painting a picture of himself, and I thought that was the funniest thing ever. And like I just love their characters, and they show up and then just disappear out of nowhere, and it's like I don't know what's happening with them. And then you find out they can basically just go through dimensions, and it's really cool. And they even have an Easter egg where they actually do appear when you look through the binoculars, or the telescope in the beginning of the game. And once you look out of the telescope, they aren't there anymore. So that was really cool too. But overall, that was an amazing game. I'm gonna play it again for sure because it's worth playing twice, because it's one of those things where it's kind of like a good mystery movie where you find out the twist, but then you go back and watch it because you see where did they foreshadow that this happened, or what's something that I could understand now as a scene, and it actually makes you appreciate it more, because people will say lines that are just like, I have no idea where this falls in line with the story, and then you get to the end, and you might not remember that line, but when you play through again, it's like, oh, he said this specific line. I know exactly why he said that now, and it just makes you appreciate it. So, if you haven't checked it out, and for some reason you watched the review, get this game because Bioshock's amazing. Great action, great story, great characters. Um, Actually, a lot of comedy in this one because of the Lutesses, which I appreciate. Because the first two games are pretty much just like everyone's on drugs. They're all just like drugged up people with powers sometimes, and you just go through killing them. But in this one, people have personalities, even if they're trying to just kill you. As where in the other one, everyone, like in 1 and 2, people were just insane and they had superpowers. And in this one, people have motives for why they're trying to take you out and stuff. So get the game, borrow it from a friend, tell a friend to buy it. Just find a way to play Bioshock Infinite because it's a great game. If you have any comments on the game, favorite parts, least favorite parts, definitely comment below, let me know. And I guess my main thing, who's your favorite character out of Bioshock Infinite? Is it Booker? Is it Elizabeth? I don't know why it would be Comstock, but if it is, let me know. But I think most people would say the Lutesses, and if it's not, definitely let me know why, because I could see why it would be Elizabeth or even Booker because of just their characters. But comment below and let me know. And thanks for watching.